Isn't that nice and relaxing?
Aren't we relaxed?
Nice and free, royalty-free music provided by StreamYard.
Shout
No
out to
copyrights for us.
honestly, I feel like a godfather right now. I feel like right now I need a stray cat and a cigar.
I feel like I'm cruising on the eternal skies of something. I don't know.
This is why
Anyway,
we don't go to Virginia Tech, guys. This is what you'll end up like.
what is that supposed to mean? Welcome, everyone, to Survivor StockWatch, Episode 8. A little bit of a lo-fi chill episode. You know, Will and I are starting to feel in our groove. Also, I'm back. My internet is finally back up. It's finally back up and running, so I should be good to go. I'm Jack. With me is Will. Will, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, I still haven't missed an episode of StockWatch. So
Well
shout
done.
out to me. You know, I remain maybe the most consistent member of Survivor StockWatch. You know,
What is
I
that?
mean,
What is that supposed to mean?
I'm just saying I have Todd and Troy Zan above Jack because they've never missed an episode that they were scheduled to be on. You know, they showed up.
To be fair, Troyzen was in and out of lightning strikes at his beautiful home in Florida. We love you, Troyzen. I'm definitely the most consistent member. What do you mean? I'm always ready to go. I had my rankings for this episode, which people may say are a little maybe controversial. I had my rankings ready for this episode by Thursday morning at like 11.
Oh,
I was ready to go.
My bad. So for the folks at home, I got promoted at work, and the promotion basically means on the days where I'm doing this role instead of serving, it's called head weight. On days that I head weight, I basically serve until we close, and then after we close, I manage the restaurant's money, and that is a lot of responsibility, and that has to take place after we close. So I've been getting home really late, and doing my StockWatch stuff takes 2 hours consistently because I watched the episode, I take notes, and this episode, I actually had to go back just to make sure I get everyone's confessionals because that is what I take notes on. So I took 3 pages of notes. I did my rankings, and I'm like, all right. I'm doing my charts in the morning. And so,
Can't deny that you are indeed prepared, Will. With how many pages of notes you said?
so this episode was actually, it was 3 notes, 3 pages of notes. I think when we were doing like the pre-merge, especially the premiere, but a lot of the pre-merge episodes though, they were like 5 pages. And
There's a lot of people.
a lot of people, plus 2 different tribes, and so I mean it's been different the last few episodes because Survivor they've been split in the merge. Like this is the first real linear episode where everyone was at the merge. There's no funky business, you know, just enough idle management. You know, a nice flip, a nice blindside. You know, to really kick off the jury phase of Survivor 47. Jack, what did you think about the episode?
I thought it was pretty good. I think the auction and the way it's being implemented, I like how they used advantages in the auction. They said they wanted to get rid of that, but the reason why it failed was because advantages were sold, not found. I think clues being found in auction items are great. I think no items in the auction, but maybe clues are good. And it ultimately led to a pretty, in my opinion, entertaining result, which I didn't really expect with that. So auction was good. Challenge is classic. Having a man and woman win, that's nice. Sue's a beast at immunity challenges. Pretty cool to see. So is Kyle, and we'll get to that as well. And the overall result of the episode, I'm starting to put the pieces together in my head, and we'll go over this when we get to the respective players. But I'm starting to kind of figure out maybe what the new era is really about when it comes to complex tribe theory, or what is the tribe that has the winner of the season. It's starting to paint a picture for me, and so I think we're starting to figure it out. What do you think, Will? Did you like the episode?
I really like the episode. I think I saw a few tweets where they hated the episode. I really think it depends on who your favorites are, who you're rooting for, because it felt very lopsided to where like this episode was really good for one player in particular who I'm really rooting for, and we'll get to that player very, very later on. Wink, wink. But then we get to like Sue, and Sue had a lot of fans and a lot of supporters. Obviously, people were making jokes about her being 45 live, but like Sue was a huge winner contender for a while, and I don't want to spoil Sue's placement, but there's been a fall from grace. The only thing about the episode I didn't like is I don't like the twist where if you have the most amount of money at the end of the auction, then you'll lose your vote. And I don't like how it's announced that after 5 items, it's all random, because after the 5 items, people pointed this out. The person with the most amount of money, they just spend it all. There's no bidding for it.
And it's kind of ruins the whole point.
Yeah.
The whole principle of the action.
Yeah. And I think having people look for money is a fun idea. I don't think it should be explored every single season. I think sometimes just having a by the books, by the basics auction is still a good idea. But, I will never complain about the Survivor auction in any form.
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of started to lead into a big problem with this potential like money hunting thing. Is that if people are really cautious, people are really like critical about wanting to keep their votes, why would they search for any money? Why would they bring any back to their plate? There's no point. And so then it's just lost items. The auction loses its appeal. So I can see that potentially coming out of the auction if it were to happen in 49, maybe even 48 if they decide to do it again next season. So it's challenging, but we got to get into it. First of all, hey, Jay, good to see you again. I'm back. All right. Shebang, the rules, yada, yada, yada. You know what we want to see. Well, we've been absolutely cooking the dice here. We've been really cooking on some of our predictions lately. Listen, we had a bad start to the season, okay? Horrible start. Asia, Keyshawn. We had a bad start. We were in rough straits, but we told you, we promised you. We said, listen, we're going to work it out. It's going to happen. It's going to be okay. Things are going to be fine. And now look at us. I think this is like 3 episodes in a row when we've really like basically hit the nail on the head. Yep. So we slashed Sierra, I think officially last episode. And then this episode, she gets eliminated. The Sam and Sierra duo outlasted its welcome. I think that was a very pertinent duo in the pre-merge, kind of defined the Gata dynamics. But now we're the start to the real story of Gata, which I will get into much, much later in this episode with Andy and Rachel. But yeah, I think Sam and Sierra are the perfect bridge. And Sierra is, in my opinion, the first of who would have gone in that pairing, and she ended up going. We talked about very earlier in the StockWatch season saying that Sierra may be hiding behind Sam, and that Sam might be a bigger threat. And that could either spell good for her game and be her strategy, or it could be problematic when people are like, we want to take out the person behind so we can have this big threat and Sam still in the game. Hence, Sierra goes home this episode in the revote, mind you, not just the normal vote, in the revote, meaning that, they want to keep Sam around as a threat. But Sierra had some decent footing going into the early merge of this game, going into the late pre-merge. Maybe had a shot, but just the lack of depth the past 2 episodes kind of nailed it down for us. And this episode, I don't think was surprising to me, to you, Will, to anybody.
Yeah. I couldn't watch the episode live, but when I found out who went home, I was just like, yeah, that clears. That checks out.
Yeah.
I saw it coming. And my only thing with Sierra too is how much she was in honestly the best position on Gata, right? Like she
Mm.
in the middle, she was in between two duos, two alliances. How much of that though was Sierra like doing that intentionally, and how much of that was her kind of falling into the position? Because I
Yeah.
think honestly, she kind of fell into it. I think she put out no legwork with Andy and only put it out with Sam, and Sam went out of his way to work with Andy, and then Rachel really pushed for an all girls alliance on Gata. So I feel like that's also why Sierra kind of fell off when the merge happened, is because I think she's a player that would work better in smaller numbers. Keep the tribe split. Maybe if the Gata and Lavo bunch went to tribal, maybe a Lavo would go instead. Whatever the case may be, I feel like Sierra reached her potential around
Yeah.
episode 5, where we had her
Yeah.
at like top 5, top 6.
Yeah, absolutely. The potential was there for her, and I mean, obviously, she made, in my opinion, the wrong choice siding with Andy. Obviously, that bitter in the end of it. Yeah, I think Sierra's going to look back at this and go, "I should not have," because Sam would have probably stayed loyal to Sierra if they decided to go with Rachel and Annika, right? I think they would have. I think Sam would have still been loyal. He would have been fine. Wouldn't have been problematic. And now you got the breadwinners plus Sam going into the merge, and that's where we would see Sierra maybe take off in the edit. But she makes the decision to save Andy at the behest of Sam, and it just crumbles apart for her. We're getting to the point now where consistency is key, and we need to have moments that make sense for the player every episode. We don't need to have. That's why people are falling, and that's why people are rising in this particular StockWatch episode, is because of what's happening with their consistency and their substance. And we're going to see that with a couple of players, but we still have Kyle at dead last. New Era Joe, potentially Cambodia Joe. On the surface, perception, well-liked figure, wins straight immunity challenges, 3 straight. Clearly dominant physically. We still see him going next episode, though. I think Kyle, his welcome was kind of met at the first merge. I think once he won that second immunity challenge, Will and I both kind of conceded that it was probably over for Kyle, and that he would have to go on an immunity run to do any real damage in this game. I could see it being maybe a little Alec from David versus Goliath, where, that first half of that, the episode where Carl went home, Alec and Christian battle it out for 7 hours on the post, and Alec gave up and then got voted out 9-1. I could see that happening next episode. I could see it happening maybe the following episode, but I really don't think his welcome is going to be lasting until like episode 11 or 12. Like, I think he's a next episode or the following episode type of guy. And who would have predicted that?
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising too, like how Kyle and Sue, you can now tell why Tuku kept winning after the TK vote. But back to Kyle, I feel like the thing with Kyle is that there is a chance where he doesn't go next episode. Maybe he wins another one. Maybe people are focused more on who the social threats are. But I just don't. Again, I don't see Kyle making it to episode 11, to episode 12.
Yeah,
I could see him surviving, the next episode. I could see him making it all the way to episode 10. But what happens then? It's like they're not going to let Kyle near the end game,
No,
especially
absolutely.
now that he turned his back on veganism, bro, and vegetarianism. He ate food. He had protein. So now he's going to be a challenge god for the next 2 days.
Yeah. Now he's going to be a juggernaut.
Oh yeah. Dude, don't be weary around Kyle, dog. But another thing too is that Kyle just feels very passive as a player. he just feels like a very classic Survivor archetype of like the good old boy, nice guy, very loyal, good at challenges, very easy to manipulated, and especially on a tribe with like Gabe and Sue. His goose has been cooked for like the last 7 episodes, and
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that he's making it this far, honestly.
Oh, I think I'm gonna pair this in tandem with Frank as Kyle threat to win just because he's an immunity threat. It's a great shield to prevent your bigger threats from being immune. Yeah, absolutely. But I think the big thing to consider here is that Kyle is like that perception that Will's talking about, a very nice, good country, like a JT perception. But also he's expressed that he's playing. Yeah, Jay. He's playing for his family. He's expressed that many times, and he's expressed playing for his family, and I feel like that could be a crimson dagger for Kyle going into these next few episodes because, I mean, Stu's an immunity threat, but she's, to me, far less threatening to win streaks of immunities, unlike Kyle, compared to the rest of this cast. I mean, we saw people dropping out of the challenge in, like, less than 2 minutes. Like, I think half the cast dropped out in 2 minutes of this challenge. And Kyle and Andy, to his credit, and Sue as well, and Rachel, all stayed up for like 5+ minutes. I feel like Kyle works in construction. He could have gone on forever. But TLDR, I think that being that immunity threat coupled with his perception and what he's fighting for, I think a lot of people will see that as, yeah, we're not trying to have JT win another perfect game or trying to have JT win another game like this. So that's where I think his pitfall is, and that's why I think both of us think that he's going to go next episode. Yeah. But we go to Gabe, who is slashed. God, I feel like such a fool for keeping Gabe at the top for so long. That was bad. Bad Jack. Not happening anymore. He is quickly screaming a blindside going into these next couple episodes here. I can see like Tevin from last season going home in that kind of blindside fashion. I think Gabe, savvy player, copping votes, getting what he wants though, but I just don't think he has the legs to make it to a point to win this game because we haven't seen anything from him that's genuinely like this is something winner-y. Like originally, I was willing to give him slack because he's saying all these like quotes and he's saying things that are different. He's got some consistency in that as well. But it's just over the past couple episodes, it's been in the moment. It's been about strategy, but it hasn't felt right to me, and it's coupled with the fact of the complex tribe theory, which we'll get into.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe's edit 2 has just been super, super weak. There was a lot of credence to him being a possible winner in episode 2, 3. I think honestly he peaked at episode 4. I forget what happened in episode 4. I think that might have been just a shaky episode. That was the Keyshawn vote. I think he like the Chukus were just winning a lot of challenges, and so he was always at the center of the Tuku tribe with Sue because Sue was so protective over Gabe, despite what Caroline was saying. And so I thought that he was hidden well enough. He had a lot of hallmarks. He was different. But as the second he went to more tribal councils and he had to play the game a little more, he just felt like a very filler edit to where he's always talking about how he wants to be on the Mount Rushmore. He always wants to play this legendary game, but he's never shown it. He's always done the safer votes. He's always been following other people's plans. It feels like a very contradictory edit to Genevieve, who we also have slash. But I feel like when Genevieve says, I want to change something, it always goes through. When Gabe says it, it's just, it does feel like Tevin. It feels, who does it feel like? Like a player who made the obvious move and then pretends like it was a big move. Kind of reminds me of Will Wall. That's
Will Wall is a great one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you.
That's
Shout
a
out
good
to
one.
Will Wall. Shout out to you.
Hey, Will. Hope you're doing well.
Can we get him on StockWatch?
Can we get Will Wall on StockWatch? That'd be great.
That'd be that's what y'all want, right?
That'd be a little wild.
Y'all want the Will Wall podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think he is going to be in a spot where he feels like he has control. He feels like he's playing the game well. And a 2 member or 2 is going to turn on him, maybe Kyle, maybe Caroline. And then it's going to fall out from under him. I can see in the next couple episodes. I think it will happen in the next couple episodes. I don't think he doesn't scream like he's going to make the finale for me. So that's where his kind of meter is at.
Yep.
All right, we're going to Saul, who is next. He's cooking late. He's been doing quite well these past couple episodes, getting some nice strategic content. Last episode, playing the advantage on Rachel. This episode, talking about, what is it, Saul Secret Angels, the SSA? I think that's the name. Yeah. Props to Saul, because I think he's in a great spot, and I think he's in a great position to not get a lot of flack going into the rest of the game. I think people like him. Kyle said Saul was his favorite this episode, which is a good knock for Saul. I think we're starting to see like a Heidi from Saul. Like Heidi was not there really much at all at the early part of 44. And then she started cooking, found advantage, made some key moves, but kind of made some good moves, made some good decisions, but also kind of blundered at times. I can see that with Saul. I think the highest I could put Saul, which is why I have him at the highest of the slash land, I could see him getting runner-up. I could see him losing at the end. I could see him going in the next couple episodes, but I think he's going to make it longer in the game. Winning, though? No, we ruled that out a while ago.
Yeah. I totally see it. There. So I have him at number 8, which is a pretty low ranking, but I feel like there is a chance I could see him making it to the final. I can see him getting second. I could see him picking up some 3 votes. He is a very likable guy, and this was a great episode. I love when episodes feel very complete for people, and we'll get to other moments of that where a player starts out saying, "This is what I want. This is what I'm hoping for," and then it gets shown later on. Saul straight up said, "I want people to think I'm goofy and likable, and that's how I'm hiding my threat level." Kyle says, "I like Saul because he's a goofball and he's fun and lighthearted." And on paper, it's a perfect episode, but just looking at everything else Saul has done and his edit, especially, in the pre-merge, I feel like he, to me, reminds me of Liz Wilcox in her edit, where it felt very
good in a positive way, though.
I'm not saying he's going to start flipping about Applebee's. Just very,
Applebee's,
but like very invisible for very early on, and then picks up a lot of momentum for one reason or another. Liz had a lot of rivalries. She had a very explosive personality and also a very good friendship with Kenzie. I feel like Saul is just it's very similar, where he's going to get a lot of momentum very late, but I think I can also see him being the next Lavo person to go. When will the next Lavo member go? I don't know, but I still see that as a possibility. Who's left on Lavo? Is it just
it is Saul, Teeny, and Genevieve?
I thought there was another. I'm thinking of Rome. Shout out to
Rome. It's a big 3. It's a big 3 now. Originally, Teeny and Genevieve kind of headlined that. Teeny with her contendership, contending. Genevieve by her strong gameplay. And now Saul's kind of creeping into the mix here with some really nice gameplay. And again, I think the biggest thing as well with this episode for Saul, he starts off wanting to work with Rachel. Saul's secret agency wants to work with Rachel. And we see that pay off later in the episode. Rachel didn't get a single vote at Tribal Council, and Saul must be feeling pretty good about that, because in a way, he got Genevieve and Teeny to kind of bend to the sword, not go for Rachel, split the vote on Sam and Sierra, and he gets to keep an ally in the game, where now, if he were to want to make a move on Genevieve, which I think he may want to help out with at some point in the game, he could do that now, because now he has Rachel essentially in his pocket, because Rachel's kind of on her own island I want her back. But yeah. Any more thoughts on Saul?
No, I do really like Saul though. I want him to make it as far as possible. I want more Saul screen time.
I think he's good.
He's a character done right because we
Yes.
are given a reason to like Saul, and like he feels very humble and very down to earth, very relatable, and he doesn't feel forced whenever he does get like emotional beats in his edit. There haven't been a lot, but they're enough to where they feel a lot more genuine than like Banu. Shout out to Banu, but like
shout out Banu.
Like I saw a post on Reddit, I think, where it's like they're like Saul's winning the hearts of millions of Americans. Shout out to Banu who couldn't do that. It's because Saul is very genuine. He's also been peering up on my Facebook people I might know, and I don't know if I have the heart to try to add him as a friend.
God, I can't believe Banu played Survivor.
I can't believe he won Survivor 46.
Isn't that crazy? He played a perfect game.
Yeah, make sure you watch our Survivor 46 coverage. Don't
forget, we called Banu out as the winner, like episode 2.
Yeah.
All right. Last slash. Here we go. Genevieve had a great episode, but a little wary. You know, we're still kind of out on her as a winner. Wanted Rachel to go, didn't happen. Nice moment with chocolate at the auction. Yada yada yada. Genevieve's doing great. Okay. The real reason I want to talk. You see Adam and Eve theory at the bottom, and you go, well, what the hell is he talking about there?
Yeah, I don't know.
I saw this on, it was some forum, I don't know. And credit to the person who did it, because I think they're genius. And I completely agree. I think this season, and the reason why someone wins compared to why someone loses, is about people's relationships with Andy. I think Andy and what he does to the game is the catalyst for people winning and losing. I think Andy is the poisoned apple sent by Satan in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are Sam and Sierra, and Genevieve is just some low-life sucker who decided to bite the apple along the way. Here's the legs to the theory, okay? So Andy is the catalyst of these people going home because they want to work with Andy. Once they decide, yeah, I want to work with Andy, I think I trust Andy, I want to be with Andy in this decision, they are in trouble. Not immediately, but eventually. We saw that as early as John going home in episode 1. Wanting to work with Andy the whole time, wanting to trust Andy, 5-1 out the door. Number 2, we saw that now with Sierra, who went home this episode, who decided, you know what, I'm going to take a bite of the Andy apple, I'm going to trust him, and I'm going to get rid of Annika. Now she goes home. Sam is in dire straits. Sam's a wild card, probably going home in a couple episodes because he maybe get one person out and then he's going to be targeted. And now Genevieve, I think it was last episode, bit the Andy apple, saying, I want to work with Andy. I trust Andy.
No.
We will get to the number 1. But the person who is number 1 is the one person this season who says, I need to distance myself from Andy. What do you think about that?
I mean, like, okay, I see it. I can see it. I think in a roundabout way, and I think the reason why I don't have Andy at number 1 is because it doesn't feel focused on that. I feel like it's something where you have to read between the lines, right? And I think there is a difference between Genevieve's relationship with Andy and Sierra's relationship with Andy, and then John's relationship with Andy. John was on the island for 2 days. I could see why Andy would flip on John to save his own life, like whatever. Sierra was kind of rude to Andy. There was a lot of negativity, forgetting about Andy being there, and not wanting Andy around. I think is different than Genevieve wanting to open arms with Andy. The reason why that'll fail though is because I think Genevieve is going to be a huge threat down the line. There's been a very big focus on social threats this season. That was pretty much the whole narrative this episode of Who to Send Home. Rachel's a big social threat. Sierra was the head of the snake. Sam's there. Like, when you think of the god of three like that, which isn't really a three because Rachel was blindsided by her god of people. But when we look at those three, it's like Sam on paper is the biggest threat, but was only really targeted by Teeny, who was targeting him just to keep Sierra in the game. And so I think Genevieve is going to work with Andy, and then I think Andy is going to want to vote out Genevieve because she is a threat to boost his resume. And I actually think that might be the reason why Andy loses, because I think he's making final tribal council, and I think the jury isn't going to like him that much. They're going to, because like Sierra's not going to vote for Andy because Andy's a big whiner according to her. Rachel wasn't the biggest Andy fan if you look at that conversation with her and Sierra. And I think a lot of lava, they're going to say like, Andy, you kind of bit the hand that fed you, dog. And while it made sense for Andy to vote out Genevieve, I think that's going to be the narrative, and that's going to be hard for Andy to escape from. And so, yeah, I completely see that. I mean, not in the way of like Andy's going to be the one, like, I don't know, where everyone's going to be like, even now likes Andy, let's vote Genevieve out. But in the most roundabout way, I could totally see it. And that's why I think I have my person at number one.
Yeah, that is a world where our person at number one wins the game. There's also a world where Andy wins the game, where it's the story of being underestimated, being shunned, and he comes back and wins it. So we'll get to them as we talk to them. But I think Genevieve is the catalyst for the winner to win their game. I think Genevieve is going to be remembered as a really great player, really smart, really savvy, going to go home. I think she's going to be just like Omer, going home right at sixth place. I think sixth place, maybe seventh, maybe fifth or fourth, but I do think Genevieve is going to go home right before the end of the game. Biggest threat taken out, and the person that slays the dragon, that is Genevieve, is going to win. But the question is, who is going to take credit for that? Who is going to be the one that spearheads that? And who's the one that the jury is going to say, you did that, you get my vote? Time will tell.
Wait, what if Final Four, or not even Final Four, but what if Rachel picks up Andy to vote out Genevieve? I know I'm spoiling the rest. Maybe that's why Rachel distanced herself. Maybe Rachel does bite the Andy apple, and maybe Rachel's the only one to benefit from it.
Right at the end, baby.
Right at the end.
Right when it matters most.
Right when it matters most.
Okay, is that okay? We haven't played the graphic. We've just been like really spewing. Should we play it?
Yeah, let's play it. That's a crackpot.
All right. Overall segment crackpot theory.
I think
that was like a 10-minute crackpot theory.
Oh yeah. Well, I think Rachel and Andy working together is a crackpot theory, especially late.
Yes.
I hate to spoil the rest. I hate to cancel Christmas, y'all.
Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from someone who was on the show last week who is an absolute juggernaut. Love him. Come back if you like. Open invitation. Todd.
What's up, guys? I'm Todd Herzog, the winner of Survivor China, and I am here with Survivor Now podcast, the best source for Survivor information, to show off what I do for a living. So I make custom Funko Pops. If you haven't seen or heard, you can check it out on Instagram at Todd's Pop Shop, or you can message me, toddspopshop@gmail.com, to order your own. And if you mention this podcast, you will get $10 off and a free torch. So it's pretty freaking awesome. I'm going to show you a few right now. We've got Troyzan here, Phil from The Amazing Race, JLP, host of Australian Survivor, and look, little Charlie. Anybody you could possibly imagine or want yourself playing an LRG or an ORG, or just with your loved one or family or pets or anything like that, shoot me a message. I'm happy to make it. You also have the chance to win a free custom pop if you sign up for Survivor Now Podcast Fantasy League. So it's pretty awesome. And it's fun. Like, who doesn't want to be a part of that? So yeah, hit me up, get your custom pops. It's great holiday gifts, great birthday gifts. We got a new season of Survivor right around the corner. I'm excited. I'm sure you're excited. Let's get this going.
2 weeks ago. You're absolutely right. It was 2 weeks ago. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I was not on the show.
I was waiting for Ollie to have an advertisement dog. I was waiting for that dog. I was going to say, why are we hyping up Ollie so much? Love you, Ollie, but like, really?
Ollie was the ad. He was the ad for Got Something For You. By the way, oh, well, I just plugged it. Might as well. Got Something For You tomorrow at 3 p.m. EST. Definitely go watch it. The boys are going to have a good time over there. All right, Sue. These last 2 episodes have been calamitous for Sue.
Yep.
Absolutely, seismically, tremendously terrible for Sue. She didn't get a confessional last episode. And then in this episode, she gets one about wanting to prove people wrong, win some challenges, do good. I hate it.
Yep.
I hate it. I want the older woman to have a shot to win, but she's gonna get 5th. She's gonna get 5th place. She's gonna be Maria. She's gonna be Julie. She's gonna be like maybe Heather. Like this sucks. I so desperately wanted Sue to win this season. I wanted Sue to win because I wanted to see the older woman do it, prove them wrong, and win the game. But these past 2 episodes have done nothing but convince me that my dreams are about to be shattered right on national television.
Yep.
And Sue's going to go home at 5th place and be the robbed mom.
I called it.
Yeah, you did. You did.
No.
You did. I hate that you did. I hate that you did, but you did.
Survivor 47 might be my season, dog. I felt like I've been pretty, except for Keyshawn. I've been pretty.
And Asia.
Okay, I don't blame me. Asia had a cookie cutter winner edit. All right, my bad. Fighting the.
I would fall for that as well.
Everyone fell for that, dog. All of our such Edgic was crying, bro.
Yeah.
They were sobbing when Asia won. But yeah, no. So I actually really wanted to give Sue a slash. Because I honestly have Sam above Sue, despite thinking that Sam is in a worse position, because I just think that Sam has more outs as a winner potential. I think if he wins, I think he opens up the next episode with how sad he is that Sierra's gone, how he has to hide his threat level, yada yada yada. You know, kind of fall under the radar. Having got to be as fractured as it is, I think they're all just going to go their own separate ways. I could see Sam, working with like Kyle and maybe some of the Tuku people, that just betrayed him, or him, linking it with Teeny, because Teeny, I don't know. Yeah. But Sue, I think, makes it a lot further than Sam in 100% of the simulations, but I just don't see her clinching a win.
Yeah, I'm close to giving Sue and Sam slashes as well. It's just sad, I think she was high on a lot of people's lists to win this season in terms of like edit and in terms of contender ranking pretty early on, certainly on mine. But just again, these episodes have done nothing but convince me that she's going to go home soon. She's still got Nidal in that pocket. And can win some challenges late down the line, especially if Kyle goes soon. But there's just nothing convincing me now that Sue is going to win this season based on the fact that she is falling. We're talking about consistency. We're talking about people rising and people falling. Sue has not been consistent the past 2 episodes, and compared to that to overall, and she's fallen rapidly, while other people are surging or still doing well. And for me, you can't fall off midway through the season. That's when you need to start surging and you need to start getting some better stuff. Sue's gotten worse as time has gone on, not gotten a lot. And it just screams that she's going to be the same old. And I don't want it, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, that's weird.
We skipped
Hold on.
Sam, by the way.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Well, Andy's next. But anyway, we'll go back to Sam real quick. Enter sheep, exit wolf. I love Enter Sandman. It's my favorite song ever. God, I'm dying over here.
All right, so I can talk about
How you guys doing?
I'm doing okay. Cut me off, why don't you? God damn. So Sam, clearly the best episode for Sam. Probably the winner.
Yep,
I think he has a lot of outs. Yeah. Lock it in. Sam
Lock
number
it
one.
in. All right, be real. So yeah, Sam loses Sierra this episode. Worst fears are met when he loses his vote at the auction. Doesn't even have say. I thought it was kind of weird that Sierra could vote in the revote and Sam couldn't. I don't know how those rules. I think those rules are a little dumb, in my opinion. I think that should be changed, and that anyone in the revote should not be allowed to vote. But whatever.
Not our show.
Whatever. It didn't matter. So there's not going to be a big lot of hullabaloo about it. But yeah. So Sam to me, he is. You're playing an RPG, right? You're playing like Dragon's Dogma 2. Or Baldur's Gate 3. You're playing some random role-playing game like Skyrim, like adventure, whatever. And you're going on your quests. You're doing all your stuff. This is like the merchant in the first city that like guides the protagonist on their way to the promised land. I think Sam is the person who started off looking strong and started off this journey being the central focus of the strategy on Gato. And I think that's going to fall away as he kind of isolates on his own island as a player and not really attached to the real storyline of Gato, which you probably already can guess now it's going to be Andy and Rachel. Sam has kind of fallen off. And now that Sierra is gone, what does Sam do? I think Sam's going to be a little bit of a chaos agent going into next episode. I think there's going to be a high chance he maybe picks off 1-2 people, but he's going to go soon. I think people are going to let him stay just a little bit longer so they can use him as a weapon to get rid of some other players, say Kyle maybe, and then he's going to go soon after that because I think Sam's utility in this game has reached its peak or almost reached its peak. And so winner potential, it's got to be here.
So here's a bold prediction. I'm feeling pretty bold. I think
Is
Sam,
it?
that's it. It might be crackpot. You can play the clip. I think Sam's winning the next individual immunity challenge. And I think that's why he stays. I think he's going to cause chaos. I think he's going to be grumpy. And we saw the next time on Survivor, he was a mean mugging Andy till the cows came home.
Pretty mean, yeah.
But I think Kyle goes. I think the reason why Kyle goes is because I think people might be targeting Sam because look at Sam. And then he's going to win the challenge. And then I think he's going to try to like make a big move. And I think people won't listen to it. I think his stock on the island is pretty small. And I feel like I could see Sam trying to make moves, not working out. Kyle goes, and I just don't know what happens episode 10. You know?
There's a world though. I mean, there's still a world. It's why I'm a little bit more ready to give Sue a slash, honestly, than Sam a slash, is because consistency. Sam has been a focus of every episode. He's still gotten content every episode. He's still been important every episode, and we're still kind of waiting to see what that wolf in wolf's clothing is going to be. Whether that is going to be an immunity winning next episode, chaos agent trying to make big moves, trying to go on a revenge tour, or it's someone who can think logically, clearly, and be the wolf while still appearing as a threat and playing it in a savvy way. Here's the world, right? In a world where Sam is that chaos agent next episode, he's gone. he's out of here. In a world where Sam plays it smart, plays it savvy, maybe reconciles with a couple people, tries to get on people's good side, lowers his threat level, maybe tries to throw the immunity challenge. There is a potential that without Sierra being a tried and true duo in the game, that if he plays it right, he could sneak his way through. And then when it matters most, he can pull out some idols, pull out some comp wins. Keep in mind, he still got that idol he didn't play. He still got that. Now it's a dud, but it's still something to flash, right? And so what we need to see out of Sam for him to stay out of Slashland is him to take this moment of back, big catharsis of strategy, and have a really perfect episode next episode.
Yeah. Sam has outs for the next episode. I don't think he's going home next episode. Really?
Yeah, no, I don't think so either.
And I could still possibly see a world where he can win. He still has some outs that he could take in theory. I just don't know how much Sam can see, and I don't know how much luck will have a factor. I don't know what's going to happen, for the rest of the season, or if there's any twists or advantages. But it's not over, especially having Sierra as the first juror, a very powerful spot. I could just, I don't know. I'm not counting him out yet. I'm not giving him
absolutely. It really depends. This is a all or nothing next episode for me. Yep. All right. I'm still so sad about Sue. All right, Andy. So we talked about Sue before if you just joined. So Andy is he is quickly rising for me, and it's starting to get to. I'm going to explain the second half of the theory, the complex tribe theory. Now with Andy, doomed for the start potentially with his outburst, and maybe that's why he loses the game. And the whole Andy is the apple. People are biting the apple and getting eliminated thing. Maybe that's where it comes from. But I want to direct your attention to the complex tribe theory, where in a sense the tribe that is complex, that has the most strategy, wins or has the winner of the season. 41 is an enigma. We're going to ignore that because that's basically like non-existent for me. 42 is the real start of this with the Taku 4. We see them really go to tribal only one episode with Mariah going home, but there's still the focus and there's still the clear alliance and figureheads of content going into the end of the game. Marianne, Omer, Lindsay, and Jonathan were all prominent going. 43, despite the fact that it was a Gabler win, which is, Andy is still Gabler insurance. Do not mix that up. He's still Gabler insurance. That yellow tribe was still a strategic focus compared to red, who went to tribal a lot, and blue, who not so much. 44, Tika 3, blatantly obvious. They were the focus, clear from the jump, right?
Yeah.
45, despite the fact that, what's his name? Lesu? Was it Lesu? The yellow tribe? 45? Oh, Lulu. Yeah, you're right. I have no idea. 45, Lulu, despite getting eliminated pretty heavily, still being focused very early on, Reba had the alliance formation and the dynamics explained within that alliance and the relationships. 46, you had the Anu 3. Simple. I think Gata is that tribe. Despite the fact that they didn't go to tribal, except for the first episode, until the last episode of the pre-merge, and despite the fact that some of the focus was on Lavo, I purely think that the narrative for the season and the strength of contenders is with Gata, and the content is with Gata. And so if it's any credence, Andy, Sam, and Rachel, the last three Gata, overall have the highest chance of winning this game by leagues over anyone else.
100%. And it's strange too because I feel like they had a little bit of every single previous tribe in Gada. When I saw the premiere, I actually thought Gada was going to be a disaster tribe. I thought they were going to lose everything. Andy was a mess. The strategy was very volatile for a while. John was a crazy first boot. Why was he the first boot? Why?
I don't know. I love John.
Can we get John on our podcast, dog? He has his own
I
podcast.
love that John on here. Let's get John on here. Yeah.
Can we go on his podcast, dog? Can we
go on his podcast and talk about StockWatch?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then for a while they became the Vibe Tribe. They felt like very Sega coded. And now they're back to being the complex tribe. I don't know what kind of tribe they remind me of. With them being so complex. Maybe Taku, where
there's a little Taku in there, I think, with the way kind of Rachel shaping up to be like a little bit of a Marianne comeback in a sense. I get it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You see the vision where it's like it feels like a ragtag team of misfits. Like it feels like a high school, not high school. It feels like a movie where it's like all the archetypes come together to band together against the evil. You have like the Jock and not Andy, Jock and Sam. You have the loner and Andy. You have the smart kid and Rachel. Like that's what it feels like. And that is something I can't really say about any other tribe because while Lavo had a lot of screen time, I feel like it went away once Rome left. Rome
Rome was the centerpiece of that.
Because Rome went so early and he was such a big character, like we had to constantly check in on Lavo, and a lot of the content revolved around Rome. Well, I feel like it revolved around Andy most definitely, but there was still the Sierra and Sam connection. There was still Rachel getting that weird amount of screen time every episode. Shout out to Mariah from 46, by the way. We're still sad.
For real.
Annika had like a little bit of screen time, as a very reactionary member. Like we still saw from individual members what we did from Lavo. And I think that's also why God is the complex tribe.
Yeah, no, and I mean, like, I think, too, I think one of the tribes won a reward. I think it was, like, Lavo or Tuku won a reward earlier in the season. And then, it was Gada that won a reward. And the other tribe lost immunity, I think it was Lavo, and they still showed Gada on the reward. They showed, like, extra time with Gada. And it's, like, to me, it's the strength of the contenders, the content that they're getting, and the stories that are coming out of that are the most important to determining the winner. And so with Andy is, to me, hindsight bias. Hi, Randy. Good to see you. Hindsight bias, to me, screams that Andy should be number 2. I have people at number 2, not one. I have 2 people at number 2. I have a tie. But Andy should be in hindsight number 2 because to me, if our number 1, which I think is pretty obvious, but I won't say it just for suspense, I think that Andy is the antithesis to the number 1. That if the number 1 doesn't win based on the storyline they're getting, based on the storyline she's getting, because it's obviously she now, based on the storyline she's getting, then Andy's going to win. Because Andy is the opposite of that story. We see he's all that moment this episode, coming out of the woodworks, being like, I'm confident now, I'm ready to make a move. And he makes a move, and he gets rid of Sam and Sierra's connection and gets rid of Sierra. Cockiness could come back to bite him. We've seen him getting a little excited about blindsiding people, especially with Annika at the merge and the copy 2 votes. So it's a toss-up right now, but Andy is surging in terms of contenders of the story that we're seeing. And the story that's been since episode 1 that we thought could mean something, but it was slowly starting to fade away, slowly starting to go away, and now it's coming back. And now it's starting to present itself more in the limelight. But I think Andy's not going to get slashed this season. No. I think that Andy is it's going to be in a twisted, screwed up, messy way, Jam Jam and Carolyn as 1 and 2, battling it out.
only reason why I disagree is because Andy just feels a little too messy of a player to
Yeah.
where I could see him being a no vote finalist. I think I draw a lot of
Yeah,
parallels.
there's the Jake
Oh, yeah.
possibility laid in there.
And I see a lot of Jake, and the way I view Jake, because I was going back to my 45 charts, and I was going back to some of our old podcasts, seeing some clips and whatnot, just hearing who we talked about. No reason, by the way. And like the way I talked about Jake was, if it's not D, who could it be? What
Yeah.
other storylines are prominent? And I feel like if it's not our number one, if it's not our number two, because I still have a player number two who is very shaky, and number three who's also very shaky. Like Andy could win it, but I just don't see the jury voting for Andy. Again, I think Andy's going to vote for Genevieve. And I think people are going to view that move very negatively. I think they're going to view it as him, again, biting the hand that feeds him, being a little too emotional. Sierra being the first juror is going to be
certainly doesn't help.
And so, like, honestly, if I was Andy in the last challenge, I might have thrown.
Yeah.
I might have thrown to get Sierra out, going to Lavo, because he has the connections with Genevieve. And so I think, honestly, his best move would have been throwing the challenge, getting Sierra out. Yes, you isolate Sam, but you are already going to do that. You're not his ally anyways. You vote out Sierra. She's not in jury, and then you have what, 5 Tuku people? Then you have to flip back Sam, who might take it pretty rough, but then you really push for Gata and Lava to work together, because what else? And Tuku's fractured anyways, and so I feel like that was Andy's big plan. Obviously, I don't blame him for not seeing that. Hindsight is 50-50. I am a guy on a couch or my chair, but
I agree. I think the analogy that hit it right on the head is, if not X, then who?
yeah.
If not our number one, then who? I think that then who is Andy. And I think that in a world where Andy does win, we have to see something positive. There's got to be some kind of positive laid episode in there, or another episode like the one with Annika, where Annika went home, where he thoroughly explained his strategy to the nitty-gritty detail, and it worked out for him. But we're gonna get off from Andy. We're gonna take a little breather. So another tie, Caroline and Teeny. Caroline and Teeny are hanging on by a thread. To me, there's still enough content to not rule them out. They still have a kind of through line. Caroline's through line being, I want to keep Tuku together. I want to keep my allies together. Strategic force. Not a lot of personal content, but sometimes personal content isn't like necessarily the most important thing. It's just like how you're kind of being presented. How Caroline's being presented is a great strategist, but a little bit of a game bot. And to me, there needs to be a little bit more of the new era, but it's I wouldn't say the story that Will and I are trying to like paint for you all is shaky, but it's not 100%. There's still a chance that Caroline could win, that Teeny could win, that Sam could win. Like, there's still chances in there. And this is like a contingency for that. Caroline, good episode, outlining the strategy, wanting to keep people together, saying Rachel's a threat, but Rachel did not go home, which is another key point that could spell doom. What do you think Caroline's kind of trajectory is for these next couple episodes? I think we alluded to it earlier, but I think that maybe taking out Gabe is going to be a nice play for her in the next couple episodes.
Yeah. She really reminds me of a player from Ghost Island. Let me make sure I have the name right.
Is it Kellen?
It is Kellen. Oh my god.
It is Kellen. Kellen Bechtold.
Yep. Shout out to Kellen, dog. Bring her back. Bring her on.
Let's get Kellen on.
Are we gonna say that about everyone we bring up every single time?
Every single person. Bring him on. Get him on here.
Let's bring Randy on the podcast.
Let's get Randy on here at one point.
But so I feel like Caroline is going to be someone who wants to make the big move too late. I love when a player is able to see like, hey, playing it safe is the right play and the right plan for me. I love that. Again, Caroline feels very Sophie Clark coded, wanting her
Yep.
messy tribe to stick
Positively.
together. The only issue is that it's the lack of edits, lack of screen time, and in a way, I could slowly see her getting morphed into being a passive player because a lot of the plans that other people want will work out. Like Caroline this episode, yes, she wanted a Agata person out, but it was Genevieve who came to Caroline, and then Caroline saying, "I like this plan," or not knowing about Sue's idol until everyone found the red paint, and then Caroline's like, "Hey, I like this." I feel like she's settling right now, and I think that could be a big problem for Caroline down the line. I'm a big Caroline fan. Again, very smart player, very savvy. And we get to a certain point now where it's not that I have players low or high because I think that they are that kind of player. It's more of I just don't think the season's going to work out for Caroline. And I could
Yeah.
see her making it to like final. I see her being an end gamer. I see her making it like final 6, final 5, final
Sure.
4.
Yeah. I think finale is possible. Very plausible.
But do I see her touching final tribal council? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I just see her being a small, like a random threat that gets brought up later on. So yeah, no, it's not looking too good, but I still see Caroline's story. She still has a story, and I could see her getting personal content down the line, maybe closer to the finale, where all she needs is just to talk about like family or her job.
Yeah, if she builds from here, if she starts building, I think there's definitely a chance. But we got to keep in mind, guys, like this is not a cut and dry. Kenzie's number 1, Charlie's number 2. Not a cut and dry. Jam's number 1, Caroline's number 2. Not a cut and dry. D's number 1. End of story.
Jake's number 2.
Just Jake is number 2, I guess. Like this is a Gabler coded season without the Jesse.
Yeah.
To me, like this is a Gabler coded season without the Jesse. We have a Gabler in like a continual Gabler with Andy, and we have so many real contenders, so many stories that could play out, but it's varying. We're narrowing it down, right? I think we're like one of the only podcasts people to completely rule out Genevieve. I think people still have Genevieve up, winning this season. Don't agree with that. Don't agree with that. We're one of the only people, but regardless, this is going to be weird. And so you got to trust us. And so Teeny being at number 2 for me at a tie and Will at number 2 overall makes sense because of the strength of consistency that we've done. We still have stuff from Teeny. We still have her talking about a strategy, talking about what she wants, what works for her. The biggest problem is the past 2 episodes. A lot of contradictions in terms of who she wants to go home and what actually happens. Last episode wants a guy to go home. Tiana goes home. This episode wants Sierra to stay in because she likes Sierra. Sierra goes home. To me, it spells bad news for someone, and passive is a word we've been bringing up. I wouldn't say necessarily passive with Teeny, but I would also say not really willing to stick it out. I think here's a thought. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna play it because I think it's a little wild. Whew, say about that. I think that Teeny's whole story of not voting for Asia, not being able to really crack down, get the nail on the head. If Teeny were to win, her story would be she's going to make tough decisions and she's going to have to get rid of people she likes, but she does it and it helps her game. And so if we see next episode, Teeny kind of talking about this, being like, yeah, I had trouble with Asia, but I decided to get into gear, decided to suit up, and I decided to vote out Sierra. Even though I like Sierra, I knew I had to do it for my game. That's a winning story. That's a through line. And if Teeny were to win, that'd be the through line. And so Teeny is still hanging up here, even though other stories have been kind of right.
Yeah.
So.
And again, it's like with Teeny too, is that I feel like she's dropping. I think she's going to drop pretty hard. And
Yeah.
the issue is, though, I kind of want to rule her out, or I want to drop her pretty low.
I don't know. I don't want to.
I don't want to either, but it's like I feel like I can sense the rest of Teeny's season. I think she's going to try. I saw a post on r/Edgic. It said, "What if Teeny's the Charlie Brown figure? What if we got it wrong? Maybe instead of Andy, it's Teeny, because Teeny wants these plans. She didn't ever want Asia gone. She wanted Rome gone for a while, and it was only till the merge when that happened. She did not want Tiana gone. She didn't want Sierra gone, and so I think she's bagging herself into a corner. She also didn't want Keyshawn gone, obviously, but I feel like she has a very strong edit, but in terms of what's actually happening to Teeny's game, there's not a lot.
No.
There are people who think she could be a losing finalist because of her weaker strategic game, and that's why she's getting such a good edit, is because she's going to be like the Charlie figure, right? Where instead of like Charlie's strong social game and weak, or strong strategic game and weaker social game, and Kenzie's strong social game, it'll be Rachel's strong game and then Teeny settling. Because I feel like this is going to be a pretty gamey jury, except for just not liking Andy. I just think they're not going to jive with him. Sorry, Andy.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's going to be a game-focused jury. They're gonna look at the game objectively. They're going to see who played the best this season, and there's going to be a little bit of there's going to be a little bit of hatred, a little bit of bad vibes from the jury, maybe a player or two, but I do think you're right. It is going to be a game-focused jury.
Oh yeah, and so I feel like if that's the case, then Teeny really needs a coronation episode. She needs a strong episode, and I've said before, she's able to kind of have some weaker episodes, but this isn't the kind of weakness or weak episodes I would want Teeny to have. I would want a lack of screen time, not contradictory. If Teeny was just under the radar, she had 2 confessionals talking about the auction, and then another one saying "Ooh, I want to vote out a GATA member." That's smart for my game. Then Teeny would be a lot less shaky than number 2.
Yeah,
but
it's the contradictions. It's these things that she's saying, and then it doesn't pan out that way in the episode. It's I think you're. Who's it like?
Gabe.
Yeah. In a sense, I think you're absolutely right. I think a coordination episode is what we need. Not like a true 1920 confessional episode, but 5 visibility, really nice through line, really nice story, gets what she wants in the end, maybe wins a challenge, finds an advantage. Overall, it's got to be stellar, I think, to really keep it not in contention, because I still think Teeny's going to be in contention, but to keep it strong contention. Because right now it's shaky. The legs are starting to wobble out from under. But not for Rachel, who's our number 1. Woo! Will, you may be a genius. You have had Rachel no lower than 3 this season.
Yep.
No lower than 3. The first episode of this season for Rachel is looking more and more important as the game goes on. We talk about so many things this episode. We talk about the Adam and Eve theory. Rachel is the one who did not bite the Andy apple, specifically says, I do not want to work with Andy. I think this is bad. I'm going to back away from this. Working out for her potentially. We see the Complex Tribe theory with GATA being the most important tribe of the season in terms of content, in terms of figureheads. We see that kind of playing out. We see Rachel kind of surging in an Erica-esque way. We kind of see, now that we have Erica insurance and Erica precedent, we can say this is possible. This, Rachel's done because she had Under the Radar episodes. Speaking of Under the Radar episodes, she always had a confession. She always had something. There was always a moment with Rachel. She names the Breadwinners Alliance, right? She has the moment with the Rice at the Challenge. She has some stuff protecting her from the Annika boot in episode 5. And then she's building, right? She finds the advantage in her fries, or the clue in her fries at the auction. She literally, I thought this wasn't possible. I thought someone would have seen her. Nice the tarp in front of everybody, gets an idol, and nobody bats an eye. And then makes one of the savviest plays I've ever seen, playing the shot in the dark, gauging reactions, and making people convinced that you don't have an idol because you look helpless and it looks like you're just trying to survive and you don't have a clue what's going on.
Yeah.
Look at that. I think this is it. If I know Survivor editors, they want a nice through line, and they don't want to have like tiny moments may not matter. Sure, like little tiny things sprinkled in for some people may not matter, but everything for Rachel has checked out. She passes the eye test, 100%.
Yeah. I actually had to go to my second notebook, or my first notebook that got full from Survivor StockWatch. Fun fact. And first episode, first challenge, Rachel gets a confessional saying she won because of the good communication. She's very competitive, and how God is a community. That was her first confessional, right? That is like Kim Spradlin, relating to the theme of an all-girls tribe in one world. Not as extreme, but like I never want to discount the winner confessional theory. I know it happens a lot.
Yeah.
But also reminds me of like Mike Holloway eating a scorpion and then saying that's why he's going to win. I think being named as a threat by multiple people, multiple strong players too. It's not it's not like Gabe is calling Rachel. I mean, I think Gabe called Rachel a threat. But
but that's the thing. Like they're calling her a threat, and they're saying, "Oh, Rachel's this big threat," and then nothing happens in the vote. That is what happened with almost all of the winners in the new era. We're talking about Kenzie, threat, never a vote. We talk about D, threat, only voted at the end. We talk about Jam Jam as a threat, never voted. Like these winners are name dropped, threat dropped, and then they just don't get any flack. They don't get it in the results. Keep going.
And I also, so she's getting labeled as a threat by like Genevieve, by Caroline, and I feel like no votes whatsoever is huge. And the biggest pushback I've been seeing is that Rachel's edit so far is too situational. You need context to explain everything. But I think the reason why I think it just worked out that way. I think Rachel not getting a lot of personal content in episode 2 when she stole the rice. I think she would have had something else if she never stole the rice. Like people say, oh, she only survived the split tribal council because Saul gave her the not shot in the dark, safety without power.
Safety without power, yeah.
But I also think that yes, if she didn't have that, she wouldn't just be here. She would have gotten voted out.
She would have gotten voted out.
She got lucky, yes, but that's also just a part of new era Survivor.
It's the game. It's the game.
It is the game. And there was another point I was going to make. Rachel's just going to win. And I feel like I think she's getting just enough. I think she's invisible enough to where it's not like a decoy winner like Carson from 44. Shout out to Carson. A fun fact, by the way, Carson.
Let's get him on the pod.
Let's
try and get Carson on the pod.
And fun fact about Carson: apparently, allegedly, he brought back the Survivor auction by convincing Jeff during the last gasp challenge in 44. Fun fact. I want to give a shout out to Carson, my goat. But yeah, no, I think that, and plus, too, a lot of people, they're still sleeping on Rachel. I go on Survivor all the time. I go on r/Edgic, and a lot of people are discounting her winner potential. When I think, honestly, she's having the strongest narrative. She had her, not coronation episode yet, but she has the momentum now. I think she's going to vote at Genevieve. I think that's going to be the big, strong winner episode for her coronation episode. She's going to get her flowers, and everyone's going to come around with Rachel. And I feel so vindicated after a season long of Kelly and a season long of Carolyn and a season long of half a season of Mariah. Rachel's my white whale, and I'm so happy that I'm calling it.
I pray to God we're right, though. I pray to God she doesn't go home next episode and we get look like absolute fools on the
If that
Survivor Now
happens-
podcast.
But then who wins? Like, who has like Andy? Like
Yeah.
every
We're playing with house money. Like we made some bad predictions early on. We started to get it right the past episodes. We can start to play with our food a little bit. And this episode has been, in a way, highly theoretical, but it's also been rooted in fact. Like all of the things we've talked about, all the storylines that we're starting to connect here, the bridges, they make sense. They're not. No, they're not that. I canceled it early to make a point. This is different. These theories work. These storylines work. And if we're right, we may be the smartest people on the planet.
Woo! Well, not just that too, but like if it's not Rachel, who has a strong narrative? Like Jeannie and Caroline, I have them both 2 and 3, and Andy at 4, but they both have serious notches against all of them. While Rachel's biggest, boon to her game, or the biggest problem, biggest setback, is a lack of screen time. But that was because she got shielded because Annika was in the game, and Annika was her number 1, and she got blindsided, and she didn't have numbers, and she didn't have allies. But she has an ally in Saul, who is a popular player on the beach so far. By being tight with Saul, she's indirectly tight with Kyle as well. Kyle is not going to vote for Rachel because Kyle wants to work with Saul. And so, and I feel like Kyle is on the bottom of Tuku. Rachel was on the bottom of Gata. And her shot in the dark play is honestly the best move on paper she could have made at the tribal council because she still doesn't isolate Sam, who right now is without a number. She kind of gets her revenge on Tierra for flipping on Annika indirectly. I don't know if Rachel knew that what was happening, but she had enough intuition to know that something was wrong, which is fine. I don't expect the winner to be in charge of every single vote. And I think that Survivor's now able, and they found their legs to be able to edit a under the radar woman, something that they historically
desperately sucked at for years
until last season when they finally got it right, without making it so obvious, like in One World or 45, where there was no other,
Here are a couple points I want to bring up with that. So Kenzie is, you would consider her in any other season pre-New Era, maybe an under the radar woman winner, social game, likable, all of that stuff, right? Like that, those are the things, and she was edited very heavily. You could argue that, hey, Rachel is in a sense that kind of player, that social, under the radar female player. But the way her edit panned out makes sense. Again, shielded from screen time because Annika was in the game, taking all the heat. Rachel was playing it back, laying low, and I think she established that. I think the biggest knock against Rachel winning, I disagree, Will. I think besides the screen time is whatever. I think the biggest knock is how the actual game's going to play out.
Yeah.
I think it's like she's in a squeeze. Like, she's in a tight spot. People see her as a threat. People may want to go after her, but she hasn't been targeted like that. But regardless, she's still on the chopping block. Like, if the game doesn't work out for her, then that's it for us. The story ends, and it's kind of cooked. But we think the story is going to work. I don't know how. I don't know where Rachel goes. I don't know what she does. Does she go on this crazy underdog Mike Holloway run? Or is it different? Is there something else in there? Does the Saul lines pan out? Is there a Genevieve connection? Is there a Kyle connection as a shield? Is there an Andy reconciliation? There's so many ways it could go.
You know what? Let's talk about it. I think next episode Kyle goes. I think Sam either bluffs. I think he does whatever. But I think Kyle goes at the final 9, right? No, it's final 10.
Yeah.
Final 9. honestly, I could see Sue going. I could see Sam going. Probably Sam, if I had to guess. Right? That just leaves Rachel and Andy. And I could see them potentially linking back up. Most likely not because of the Andy Apple theory. So that leaves what, final 8? Where I could see. Problem is,
Gabe?
Gabe. Oh, I forgot about Gabe. No, Gabe's going at final 9. Yeah, no, it's not Kyle. Sam. Yeah, no. It's gonna be Kyle then Gabe. I completely forgot about Gabe being in the game. Sorry, Gabe. Can we get Gabe on the podcast? Because that's final 8 where we talked about Sam going, the obvious final 8 finisher. Final 7. I could see Caroline going. Final 6, I think, is Genevieve. I think 5.
Maybe, yeah.
I think 4 could be. I think Rachel goes to fire. Maybe she goes to fire against Andy. I don't know. Because that leaves what? That leaves Sue, Rachel, Teeny, and Andy. Yeah. I could see Sue, Rachel, Teeny. I could see Teeny losing fire. Final 3. I think Rachel clears. I think she beats Andy. I kind of see Andy going.
We'll see. Let's see. I think we should see how the Edgic looks because I think it might tell a different, maybe tell us a different story. So let's get to it. All right, so we start off with mine. Got some clear through. So we're gonna take a look at contenders. We're just gonna ignore like other people basically in general. Rachel. Let's look at Andy. We can look at Teeny, and we can look at Caroline. Right, those are basically our top 4 at this rate. Andy's really negative. Like that's the big knock, right? Andy is so negative in the edit. He consistently has gotten flack for his game in every episode, which is potentially a knock for him. Rachel, that under editing strip, absolutely, but she's surging. You see that. Yeah. You see 2 complex personality positives, right? Caroline, strong in her way, a little Sophie Clark, like you said. And then Teeny, a little consistent in terms of how it is, but maybe kind of fizzling out a little bit. And then we got Wills. And Wills is pretty similar to mine, I'd say. Rachel's the same. Andy's basically the same. Teeny is relatively the same. Caroline is the same.
Instead of over the top. Yeah.
What do we think? Because we're going to, we look back at other Edgic strips, right? We look at Kenzie, who never had an Under the Radar episode. We look at Jam Jam, who never had an Under the Radar episode. But we also have people like Dee, who had an Under the Radar episode. We also had Erica, who was under the radar. There's so many ways it could go. What do you think matters? Because Andy's strip, if he starts trending positive at the end, it's like Jam Jam a little bit like Kenzie. But Rachel's is more like Dee. Rachel's is a little more like Erica. What do we think?
I feel like Jam Jam had more positivity early on. I don't think it was as negative at the final 8. I think once Merge happened and once Merge hit, he had a clear storyline. And so I think his Edgic made a lot more sense. Where Andy's, I feel like he's just a little too negative even now, where his best episode was mixed. I honestly considered putting this episode as a positive, but I also just think him, his auction failure, his auction blindside prevented me from doing positive. It's still a great episode for him in terms of what happened. I think context matters, though, when we talk about Edgic. What happens on the island and what are the storylines happening? Because I think we can compare Caroline to Sophie Clark all we want, but I feel like Caroline, the difference is that her alliance that she's trying to keep together isn't as tight, and I don't think she's as insulated as Sophie Clark was, And I think Teeny is starting to wane a little bit, where she had a string of CP episodes, positive episodes in pre-merge, and the second the merge hit, she's been kind of taking a backseat, while Rachel's the exact opposite. Strong premiere, under the radar, and then great merge episodes like D. And I think that a D Edgic strip has more legs than a Jam Jam Edgic strip.
I want to point out one more thing. I'm going to pull way back into history here. Chris Daughtry from Vanuatu.
Ooh.
Rachel's edit on paper, as the strip presents, looks a lot like that. Because Chris had a CP episode, a really strong premiere, and had nothing, almost, for 5 episodes. And then he jumps to the top. If Rachel were to win, I think a lot of comparisons based on raw edge would be looking at that comparison.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
I was trying to find a Chris Daughtery Edgic. The only difference is I feel like Chris had a very negative, or not negative, but he had a very
maybe this is the good twin, the good angel edit.
Yeah, but I completely agree. I think when we're looking at the Edgic, just context matters.
Yeah.
I don't want to blindly say, oh, this Edgic strip looks like another player, because the situations might be different. Again, like the biggest knock to Rachel's strip so far is how can she manage? Like how can she get?
Yeah, how can she actually win the game?
Yeah, like what is going to happen? Also, I forgot to bring this up earlier. I low-key think we're going to have not a medevac, but I think we're going to have a very controversial or very weird tribal council. I think something is going to happen, like maybe not a quit, but maybe a medevac, maybe someone throwing in the towel. Like I feel like there's something weird going on this season.
Yeah, we've been losing out a little bit on the weirdness. I think something interesting could happen, but maybe. I think that's a table for another episode. All right,
Yeah.
Closing statements, wrapping up. Join our Patreon. You can get a free trial real quick. Watch some of the videos. You like it, you want to stay, subscribe, give us some money, please. I'm kidding. But definitely check that out. Get some merch. Survivor StockWatch still hanging strong. Go get some new shirts, sweatshirts, yada yada. Follow us, Instagram, Twitter. I'm calling it Twitter. I always do. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Listen to all our content, Spotify. Make sure you always like and subscribe StockWatch. Say it is the best Survivor Now podcast show. And Will,
Jack,
this has been the Stocks.
calm down, pal.
Do you have any final words?
When Rachel wins the season, I told all of y'all. Episode 1. That's all.
We'll see if Will's ego maybe overshadows his logic. We thank you all for watching this episode of Survivor StockWatch with us. We truly appreciate it, your patronage. It has been awesome. It's been a great episode, really starting to set the stage for the end of this game. And we are very excited for next episode and the following episode of Survivor StockWatch. We're going to have a guest soon. Maybe someone we alluded to this episode. Who knows? Maybe not.
Greg Buis?
No. We thank you all for your time, and we will see you next week.